In this module, we're going to have a look at the relationship that you have with your landlords. You are the property rental experts. I always outline this as you being the solicitor of the rentals market. Landlords rely on you to guide them through the maze, and they may appoint you to take responsibility for doing certain things on their behalf. And you have to be able to show that you acted responsibly, you acted professionally, and you provided the correct advice. Just as you would expect your solicitor to provide you with all that if you instructed a solicitor to act for you. So make sure that you're always acting professionally in all situations. Now, you will have different types of landlord. The two main types of landlords will be accidental or reluctant landlords. And you'll know what I mean by those two. They've inherited a property, they've acquired a property, they were never intending to be a landlord, but they've actually ended up being a landlord. They need a lot more help. They won't understand what the rental market's about, they won't understand their obligations, they won't understand the terms that are used in the rentals market. So you have to lead them through by the hand to make sure that they get to the right position that they need to be in. Slightly different when you're dealing with an investor or a buy-to-let landlord. These are going to be more familiar with the lettings environment, but they still need your particular skills and expertise, and especially your knowledge of the local market. So whilst their motivation for renting a property out is to make a profit, and it's an investment, and they're less emotionally attached to the property, you still have to provide that professional service and be businesslike throughout. If you don't, you will breach the Property Ombudsman's code of practice, and you will potentially have the risk of action being taken against you through the courts. So agreeing terms with the landlord is an important step, and you have to do this right at the start. And this is not just about fees. This is about making sure that all your terms are written down and both parties sign and date the terms to confirm the agreement. So it should outline what you're going to do for your money. It should outline what you expect of the landlord. It should outline all the fees that will apply, all the fees that might apply in certain circumstances. And there's an old saying in compliance, and that is, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So make sure you're documenting as much as possible, if not everything. Now, you will provide different types of services to landlords. There are three general types of service. There's a lettings only service, a lettings and rent collection service, and a management service. The particular services you provide to each individual landlord may vary, but I will outline these three types of service in a little more detail for you. So, letting only service, introduction service, or tenant find service. This is the very basic service where you just find the landlord a tenant. And once you've found them a tenant, the landlord is on their own. They're off, they provide the tenancy agreement, they manage the property, they collect the rent, but you might provide them with a range of other services. So you might do the EPC for them, you might do the gas safety certificate for them. So make sure that your terms of business reflect the services that you provide, the ones you can provide, and the fees you're going to charge them throughout. A lettings and rent collection service is similar, except the landlord wants you to collect the rent. They don't want the aggravation of having to deal with the money side of the tenancy, so they appoint you to collect the rent, and you collect the rent, take your fees from that, and then pass the rest on to the landlord. Again, the same thing applies. Make sure everything is outlined in your terms of business so that the landlord is fully aware of what you're going to do for your fees. The third one is the management service. This is generally a comprehensive, inclusive service, and you become the managing agent. And in these cases, you will deal with day-to-day repairs and maintenance, conduct property visits, renew the certificates and carry out electrical safety checks, for example, arrange transfer of utilities, manage legal issues as they arise, and deal with the end of tenancy issues. Again, very important that you tell your landlord what services you are going to provide and what you're not going to provide. Avoids problems, avoids potential for actions and complaints to the Ombudsman. In addition, you have a duty to adhere to the Property Ombudsman's Code of Practice. Most of you will be a member of the Property Ombudsman scheme, but even if you're not a member of that scheme and you're a member of the Property Redress scheme, then that Code of Practice still applies to you. So therefore, make sure you understand what the obligations are under that Code of Practice. Make sure you comply so that you can avoid compensation claims being made against you. You have to act in the best interests of your client at all times, so you have to find the best outcome for your client. Even if it means that you make less money, less commission, then you have to act in the best interests of your client. So for example, if you have 2 offers from 2 individuals to rent a property, one's from a tenant who clearly has better references but offers a lower price, you should always make it clear to the landlord both offers, even though the commission on a commission-based structure will earn you a lower fee. Also, where a landlord takes a harsh position with a tenant, you have to act in the best interests of the landlord. Even if you don't quite agree with the landlord's stance on any given situation, you must always act in their best interests and follow their instructions. Otherwise, you leave yourself open again to potential claims to the Ombudsman or even through the courts. Landlords and tenants expect fair dealings with agents, and when there's a personal interest, you have to make a declaration. You have to be transparent about these things. So if you're acting for a shareholder of your business, a director, a partner, an employee, or a relative of an employee, and they're the landlord, then applicants should be told straight away, this is who the landlord is. If the situation is the other way around, so the employee or the relative wishes to become a tenant, then you should be open with your landlord immediately and say, we have an applicant who is an employee of the business.